You've probably picked up an X-Men comic at some point and come across terms like Omega-Level Mutant, Delta-Level Mutant, or Epsilon-Level Mutant, and wondered, what does that actually mean? Is it simply a ranking of who's the strongest mutant? Not exactly, but power is definitely part of the equation. In the Marvel Universe, mutants are some of the most unique beings in all of fiction. They are born with extraordinary abilities due to a specific genetic variation known as the X gene, and no two mutations are ever truly the same. Some mutants can control the weather, others manipulate reality, energy, time, or even the fundamental structure of matter itself. And because of this massive variety, Marvel needed a way to categorize mutant abilities, not just by raw strength, but by potential, control, and scope. That's where the mutant classification system comes in. Within Marvel Comics, mutants are often classified based on both the level of power they possess and the nature of their abilities. This system is traditionally divided into 6 distinct classes, all named after letters of the Greek alphabet: Omega, Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta, and Epsilon. At first glance, it might seem like a simple ladder: higher class, stronger mutant. But the reality is far more complex. This system is not fixed, and it is not permanent. A mutant's classification can change over time. A character might rise through the ranks by gaining greater mastery over their powers, unlocking secondary mutations, or evolving beyond their original limitations. In fact, Marvel itself has redefined and reinterpreted these classifications multiple times throughout its history. What qualified as an Omega-level mutant in one era might not fully apply in another. Because of that, this is not a definitive or absolute ranking. Instead, think of it as a framework, a way to understand how Marvel views mutant potential, limitations, and evolutionary scale. In this video, we're going to break down each mutant classification level one by one. We'll explain what defines each class, what separates them, and which iconic characters best represent them. By the end, you'll understand not only what these labels mean, but why they matter, and why some mutants stand on an entirely different level of existence. This is Godscale, and this is how mutant power is measured. Epsilon-level mutants, the lowest tier of mutation. Let's start at the very bottom of Marvel's mutant classification system. Epsilon-level mutants. These are mutants whose abilities offer little to no practical use, whether for offense or defense. In many cases, their mutations don't provide any combat advantage at all. Instead of super strength, energy projection, or reality manipulation, Epsilon-level mutations often manifest as purely physical alterations, and not the kind that come with enhanced function. These mutations are frequently grotesque, unstable, or debilitating, making it impossible for these individuals to pass as normal humans. If you've read Grant Morrison's run on New X-Men, you've almost certainly seen examples of this. That era of X-Men comics heavily explored the idea that mutation isn't always a gift. Sometimes it's simply a genetic accident. Because of this, a significant number of Epsilon-level mutants are found among the Morlocks, the underground mutant community made up of individuals rejected by both human and mutant society. Their powers don't make them soldiers, they don't make them heroes, and they certainly don't make them gods. What defines an Epsilon-level mutant is lack of utility. Their mutation may be visible, permanent, and life-altering, but it does not grant meaningful control over the environment, enemies, or even themselves. In fact, it's estimated that a large portion of the mutant population in Marvel falls into this category. The X gene is unpredictable, and its effects can be drastic. Not every mutation leads to power. A perfect example is Beak. Beak was born with numerous avian traits: feathers, a beak, and wings. But despite his appearance, he cannot fly. His wings are atrophied, offering no functional advantage whatsoever. He looks like a bird, but lacks the one ability that would make that mutation useful. Other well-known Epsilon-level mutants include Skin, Ugly John, and Maggot, characters whose mutations altered their bodies in extreme ways without granting proportional power. Epsilon-level mutants remind us of a critical truth in Marvel's world. Mutation is not a blessing by default. It is not fair, and it is not designed. At this level, mutation is simply existence without advantage, and that's why Epsilon-level mutants sit at the very base of the mutant power scale. Delta-level mutants, subtle power, critical impact. Moving one step up the mutant classification system, we reach Delta-level mutants. At this tier, the difference is immediately noticeable, not in raw power, but in presentation. Delta-level mutants typically show no obvious physical traits that mark them as mutants. They can pass as ordinary humans without any difficulty, blending seamlessly into society. Their mutations don't manifest as claws, wings, or energy blasts. Instead, they tend to be subtle enhancements of human potential. In most cases, Delta-level abilities are not inherently offensive or defensive. You won't see these mutants leveling cities or overpowering armies. What defines a Delta-level mutation is that it amplifies an existing human trait: intelligence, perception, intuition, adaptability, or technical aptitude. On paper, these abilities may seem unimpressive, but in practice, they can be extraordinarily powerful when paired with training, strategy, and experience. A prime example is Cypher. Cypher's mutation allows him to understand all forms of language: spoken, written, digital, and even body language. While this doesn't grant him super strength or durability, it gives gives him something far more valuable in certain situations: perfect comprehension. Through this ability, Cypher can analyze enemy movement patterns, predict combat behavior, and decode fighting styles in real time, turning information into a weapon. Other notable Delta-level mutants include Destiny, Sage, Forge, and Dr. Nemesis. These characters are rarely on the front lines. Instead, they serve as force multipliers. They coordinate teams through telecommunications. They provide tactical foresight through precognition. They solve problems no one else can, from advanced engineering to impossible investigations. Delta-level mutants are often the ones behind the scenes, ensuring that stronger mutants can actually succeed. They may train in combat and incorporate their abilities into a fight, but their true strength lies in support, strategy, and execution. Without Delta-level mutants, many of Marvel's most powerful teams would collapse under their own weight. They are not gods. They are not weapons of mass destruction. They are the minds that make power effective, and that is what defines the Delta tier of the mutant scale. Gamma-level mutants. Power without disguise. Now we enter one of the most complex and misunderstood tiers in Marvel's mutant classification system: Gamma-level mutants. This is a delicate category because Gamma-level mutants often possess abilities that are just as effective as those seen in Alpha or Beta-level mutants. They are not weaker. They are not inferior. The key difference is not power, it's visibility. Gamma-level mutants exhibit strong, unmistakable physical traits that immediately identify them as non-human. Because of this, they cannot blend into society or live normal lives without facing fear, prejudice, or outright hostility. And importantly, these physical traits are not always connected to their actual powers. Take Nightcrawler, for example. His blue fur, tail, and demonic appearance make him stand out instantly, but his primary ability has nothing to do with his appearance. Nightcrawler is a master teleporter capable of instant spatial displacement across vast distances. Another example is Blink. Her purple skin and unique facial structure mark her as visibly mutant, yet her true power lies in creating dimensional teleportation portals, not physical mutation. This disconnect between appearance and ability is one of the defining traits of Gamma-level mutants. Unlike Delta-level mutants, Gamma-level individuals frequently possess direct offensive and defensive capabilities. They can fight, they can endure, and they can cause real damage. Because of this, they are often the most feared mutants by ordinary humans, not because they are gods, but because they are visibly powerful and impossible to ignore. In a global sense, Gamma-level mutants represent a significant portion of the mutant population. In fact, many of the most iconic X-Men fall into this category. Characters like Beast and Nightcrawler exemplify the Gamma tier. Mutants with formidable abilities who nonetheless face constant social rejection. But Gamma-level mutants are not exclusive to heroes. The Brotherhood of Mutants also includes prominent Gamma-level figures such as Sabretooth and Blob, individuals whose physical power and resilience make them terrifying opponents. Gamma-level mutants sit at a crucial crossroads. They possess real power. They shape battles. They influence outcomes. But unlike higher classifications, they cannot escape the consequences of how they look. At this level, mutation is not subtle. It is not hidden. It is visible power without disguise. Beta-level mutants. High power, limited control. Moving further up the scale, we reach beta-level mutants, one of the most common and misunderstood tiers in Marvel's classification system. At first glance, beta-level mutants may seem very similar to gamma-level mutants. They often possess combat-effective powers, high durability, and impressive physical capabilities. The key distinction, however, lies in control and physical manifestation. Beta-level mutants typically have limited or incomplete control over their abilities. Their powers are active, reliable, and powerful, but not fully regulated. Unlike gamma-level mutants, their physical mutations are usually minor or localized. They don't radically alter the entire body, and in some cases, they can go unnoticed by the average human. However, these traits still prevent them from being truly human. A perfect example is Namor. Namor is a mutant by birth, the result of Atlantean and human lineage. His abilities include superhuman strength, flight, enhanced durability, and the ability to breathe underwater. Yet physically, his mutations are subtle: pointed ears and small wings on his ankles. These details are enough to mark him as something other than human, even if the rest of his appearance remains largely normal. Another iconic beta-level mutant is Wolverine. On the surface, Logan appears completely human. There are no visible mutations, no unusual anatomy, and no external signs of his powers. But that's exactly where the beta classification becomes clear. Wolverine's healing factor is permanently active. He cannot turn it off. He cannot suppress it. Any injury, cuts, broken bones, lethal trauma triggers immediate regeneration. This lack of control means that sooner or later, his mutation reveals itself. No matter how human he appears, his biology will always betray him. Other notable beta-level mutants include Gambit, Rogue, and Mimic, characters with highly effective powers that nonetheless come with imitations, risks, or instability. Beta-level mutants are often frontline fighters. They excel in combat situations and can go toe-to-toe with powerful enemies, but their abilities are not perfectly refined. There is always a cost, always a drawback. At this level, mutation grants serious power, but not mastery. Beta-level mutants are dangerous, resilient, and battle-tested, yet they still exist in a state of imbalance between control and chaos, and that tension is exactly what defines the beta tier. Alpha-level mutants, power under control. Now we reach the second highest tier of Marvel's mutant classification system, alpha-level mutants. This is where many people get confused. Alpha-level mutants are not necessarily stronger than beta or gamma-level mutants. They do not automatically rank higher in raw, destructive power. The defining trait of an alpha-level mutant is control. Alpha-level mutants possess a high degree of mastery over their abilities. They can activate, suppress, regulate, and refine their powers at will. Because of this control, most alpha-level mutants are able to blend into human society without difficulty. Their mutations do not constantly expose them or betray their identity. A particularly interesting example is Cyclops. Cyclops is often mistaken for a beta-level mutant because his optic blasts are famously dangerous. However, the key detail is that his lack of control is not genetic. His inability to regulate his powers stems from a traumatic childhood injury, not from his mutation itself. In a world where that accident never happened, Cyclops would have full command over his optic beams. That distinction places him firmly within the alpha classification. Another iconic alpha-level mutant is Emma Frost. Emma possesses a powerful secondary mutation that allows her to transform her entire body into organic diamond. However, unlike beta-level mutants, she can activate and deactivate this form at will. Her mutation does not dominate her existence, she dominates it. The same principle applies to mutants whose powers leave no physical trace at all. Characters like Magic and Jubilee display no permanent physical mutations. Their abilities manifest externally, through energy, portals, or magical effects, and can be fully controlled or suppressed when necessary. Other notable alpha-level mutants include Professor X, Kitty Pryde, and Havoc, individuals whose powers are both refined and regulated. Alpha-level mutants represent the point at which mutation becomes functional, precise, and intentional. They are not ruled by their abilities. They do not fear losing control, and they do not constantly expose themselves to the world. At this level, mutation is no longer a curse or a risk. It is a tool, and mastery over that tool is what defines the alpha tier. Omega-level mutants, the absolute ceiling. Finally, we arrive at the highest and most misunderstood classification in Marvel's mutant hierarchy, Omega-level mutants. For many years, the term Omega was used in a very loose way. Basically, any mutant with absurd godlike power could receive the label. However, with the changes established during House of X/Dawn of X, Marvel officially redefined what Omega truly means. An Omega-level mutant is not simply the most powerful overall. An Omega-level mutant is the absolute peak of a specific power set. In simple terms, if you list every mutant on Earth who shares a similar ability, the Omega-level mutant is the one who sits at the very top of that category, with no known upper limit. Jean Grey, for example, is Omega not because she is strong, but because her telepathy and telekinesis surpass every other mutant telepath in existence. Storm is Omega because no other mutant can match her command over weather and atmospheric systems. Her control is not regional, continental, or planetary. It is theoretically limitless. Magneto is Omega because his mastery over magnetic fields stands uncontested. He does not merely manipulate metal, he bends fundamental forces of nature. Iceman is another fascinating case. For years, Bobby Drake was underestimated, but it was later revealed that his mutation is not about creating ice. It is about absolute control over thermal energy and molecular motion. In theory, there is no known ceiling to how cold he can make reality itself. Legion represents a different kind of Omega. He possesses multiple personalities, each linked to a completely different power, and many of those abilities are Omega level on their own. Hope Summers, meanwhile, is Omega not because she generates power, but because her ability to copy, amplify, and synchronize mutant abilities has no observable limit. Another crucial detail, Omega level mutants are often capable of secondary mutations. Their powers evolve, branch, and redefine themselves naturally. What starts as one ability may become many, and perhaps most importantly, Omega-level mutants do not need to be born Omega. A mutant can evolve into Omega from almost any other classification, especially Alpha and Beta, once their powers reach a point where no further growth has been observed or measured. This is why Omega-level mutants are treated differently. They are not simply soldiers. They are not just heroes or villains. They are living constants of the universe. When an Omega-level mutant acts, the world does not adapt to them. Reality does. So, after breaking down every classification, from Epsilon to Omega, one thing should be very clear. The mutant hierarchy was never meant to decide who wins a fight. It exists to explain how mutant abilities manifest, how much control a mutant has over their powers, and how those powers affect their ability to live among humans. An Omega-level mutant isn't automatically superior to an Alpha or a Beta. They simply represent the ultimate expression of a single ability. At the same time, an Epsilon mutant isn't weak. They are simply victims of how unpredictable the X gene can be. This system shows us something fundamental about Marvel's mutants. Their greatest strength and their greatest curse are the same thing. Mutation is chaos. Some are born gods, some are born outcasts, and many fall somewhere in between. But classifications are not destiny. Throughout Marvel history, mutants have evolved, adapted, and shattered every label imposed on them. A Beta can become Alpha, an Alpha can reach Omega, and even the weakest mutation can change the world in the right moment. And that is why mutants are feared, hated, and admired. Not because of what they are, but because of what they might become. This is the true meaning of mutant power.